Be kind to nature. An announcement came over the huge speakers next to the stadium lights. Welcome, everyone! Welcome to the 23rd annual Big Movie Night at the Browerwood Nature Reserve. Welcome, teachers and students from MS342, the William Heath School. A big cheer went out on the left side of the field. Welcome, teachers and students from Grover Academy. Another cheer went out, this time on the right side of the field. And welcome, teachers and students from the Beecher Prep School. Our whole group cheered as loudly as we could. We're thrilled to have you as our guests here tonight and thrilled that the weather is cooperating. In fact, can you believe what a beautiful night this is? Again, everyone whooped and hollered. So, as we prepare the movie, we do ask that you take a few minutes to listen to this important announcement. The Broward Nature Reserve, as you know, is dedicated to preserving our natural resources and the environment. We ask that you leave no litter behind, clean up after yourselves, be kind to nature, and it will be kind to you. We ask that you keep that in mind as you walk around the grounds. Do not venture beyond the orange cones at the edges of the fairgrounds. Do not go into the cornfields or the woods. Please keep the free roaming to a minimum. Even if you don't feel like watching the movie, your fellow students may feel otherwise. So please be courteous. No talking, no playing music, no running around. The restrooms are located on the other side of the concession stands. After the movie is over, it will be quite dark. So we ask that all of you stay with your schools as you make your way back to your buses. Teacher, there's usually at least one lost party at Big Movie Night at Browerwood. Don't let it happen to you. Tonight's movie presentation will be The Sound of Music. I immediately started clapping, even though I'd seen it a few times before, because it was Via's favorite movie of all time. But I was surprised that a whole bunch of kids, not from Beecher, booed and hissed and laughed. Someone from the right side of the field even threw a soda can at the screen, which seemed to surprise Mr. Tushman. I saw him stand up and look in the direction of the can thrower, though I knew he couldn't see anything in the dark. The movie started playing right away. The stadium lights dimmed. Maria the nun was standing at the top of the mountain, twirling around and around. It had gotten chilly all of a sudden, so I put on my yellow Montauk hoodie and adjusted the volume on my hearing aids and leaned back against my backpack and started watching. The hills are alive. The woods are alive. Somewhere around the boring part where the guy named Rolf and the oldest daughter are singing, "You are 16 going on 17, Jack nudged me. Dude, I gotta go pee, he said. We both got up and kind of hopscotched over the kids who were sitting or lying down on the sleeping bags. Summer waved as we passed, and I waved back. There were lots of kids from the other schools walking around by the food trucks, playing the carnival games, or just hanging out. Of course, there was a huge line for the toilets. Forget this. I'll just find a tree, said Jack. That's gross, Jack. Let's just wait, I answered. But he headed off to the row of trees at the edge of the field, which was past the orange cones that we were specifically told not to go past. And of course, I followed him. And of course, we didn't have our flashlights because we forgot to bring them. It was so dark now, we literally couldn't see 10 steps ahead of us as we walked towards the woods. Luckily, the movie gave off some light, so when we saw a flashlight coming toward us out of the woods, we knew immediately that it was Henry, Miles, and Amos. I guess they hadn't wanted to wait in line to use the toilets either. Henry and Miles were still not talking to Jack, but Amos had let go of the war a while ago, and he nodded hello to us as we passed them. Be careful of the bears, shouted Henry, and he and Miles laughed as they walked away. Amos shook his head at us like, don't pay attention to them. Jack and I walked a little further until we were just inside the woods. Then Jack hunted around for the perfect tree and finally did his business, though it felt like it was taking forever. The words were loud with strange sounds and chirps and croaks, like a wall of noise coming out of the trees. Then we started hearing loud snaps not far from us, almost like cap gun pops that definitely weren't insect noises. And far away, like in another world, we could hear raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens. Ah, that's much better, Jack said, zipping up. Now I have to go pee, I said, which I did on the nearest tree. No way I was going further in like Jack did. Do you smell that? Like firecrackers, he said, coming over to me. Oh, yeah, that's what that is, I answered, zipping up. Weird. Let's go. Alien. We headed back the way we came in the direction of the giant screen. That's when we walked straight into a group of kids we didn't know. They'd just come out of the woods doing stuff I'm sure they didn't want their teachers to know about. I could smell the smoke now, the smell of both firecrackers and cigarettes. They pointed a flashlight at us. There were six of them, four boys and two girls. They looked like they were in the seventh grade. What school are you from? One of the boys called out. Beecher Prep, started to answer, when all of a sudden one of the girls started screaming. Oh my God, she shrieked, holding her hands over her eyes like she was crying. I figured maybe a huge bug had just flown into her face or something. No way, one of the boys cried out and started flickering his hand in the air like he just touched something hot. And then he covered his mouth. No frickin' way, man. No frickin' way. All of them started half laughing and half covering their eyes, now pushing each other and cursing loudly. What is that? Said the kid who was pointing the flashlight at us. And it was only then that I realized that the flashlight was pointing right at my face. And what they were talking about, screaming about, was me. Let's get out of here, Jack said to me quietly. And he pulled me by my sweatshirt sleeve and started walking away from them. Wait, 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 yelled the kid guy with the flashlight, cutting us off. He pointed the flashlight right in my face again, and now he was only about 5 feet away. Oh man, he said, shaking his head, his mouth wide open. What happened to your face? Stop it, Eddie, said one of the girls. I didn't know we were watching Lord of the Rings tonight, he said. Look, guys, it's Gollum. This made his friends hysterical. Again, we tried to walk away from them, and the kid named Eddie cut us off. He was at least a head taller than Jack, who was about a head taller than me, so the guy looked huge to me. No, man, it's an alien, said one of the other kids. No, 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 man, it's an orc, laughed Eddie, pointing the flashlight at my face again. This time he was right in front of us. Leave him alone, okay, said Jack, pushing the hand, holding the flashlight away. Make me, answered Eddie, pointing the flashlight at Jack's face now. What's your problem, dude, said Jack. Your boyfriend's my problem. Jack, let's just go, I said, pulling him by the arm. Oh man, it talks, screamed Eddie, shining the flashlight in my face again. Then one of the other guys threw a firecracker at our feet. Jack tried to push past Eddie, but Eddie shoved his hands into Jack's shoulders and pushed him back, which made Jack fall backwards. Eddie, screamed one of the girls. Look, I said, stepping in front of the guy and holding my hands up in the air like a traffic cop. We're a lot smaller than you guys. Are you talking to me, Freddy Krueger? I don't think you want to mess with me, you ugly freak, said Eddie. And this was the point where I knew I should run away as fast as I could. But Jack was still on the ground, and I wasn't about to leave him. Yo, dude, said a new voice behind us. What's up, man? Eddie spun around and pointed his flashlight towards the face. For a second, I couldn't believe who it was. Leave them alone, dude, said Amos, with Miles and Henry right behind him. Says who? One of the guys with Eddie. Just leave them alone, dude, Amos repeated calmly. Are you a freak too? Said Eddie. They're all a bunch of freaks, said one of the friends. Amos didn't answer them, but looked at us. Come on, guys, let's go. Mr. Tushman's waiting for us. I knew that was a lie, but I helped Jack get up, and we started walking over to Amos. Then, out of the blue, the Eddie guy grabbed my hood as I passed by him, yanking it really hard, so I was pulled backwards and I fell flat on my back. It was a hard fall, and I hurt my elbow pretty bad on the rock. I couldn't really see what happened afterward except that Amos rammed into the Eddie guy, like a monster truck, and they both fell down to the ground next to me. Everyone got really crazy after that. Someone pulled me up by my sleeve and yelled, "Run!" And someone else screamed, "Get him!" at the same time. And for a few seconds, I actually had two people pulling the sleeves of my t shirt in opposite directions. I heard them both cursing into my sweat until my sweatshirt ripped, and the first guy yanked me by the arm and started pulling me behind him as we ran, which I did as fast as I could. I could hear footsteps just behind us, chasing us, and voices shouting and girls screaming. But it was so dark I didn't know whose voices they were, only that everything felt like we were underwater. We were running like crazy, and it was pitch black. And whenever I started to slow down, the guy pulling me by my arm would yell, "Don't stop!" The voices in the dark. Finally, after what seemed like a forever of running, someone yelled, "I think we lost them." "Amos?" "I'm right here," said Amos's voice a few feet behind us. "We can stop," Miles yelled from further up. "Jack?" I yelled. "Yo," said Jack, "I'm here. I can't see a thing." Are you sure we lost them?" Henry asked, letting go of my arm. That's when I realized that he'd been the one who was pulling me as we ran. "Yeah, shh, listen." We all got super quiet, listening for footsteps in the dark. All we could hear were the crickets and frogs and our own crazy panting. We were out of breath, stomachs hurting, bodies bent over knees. "We lost them," said Henry. "Whoa, that was intense. What happened to the flashlight?" "I dropped it." "How did you guys know?" said Jack. "We saw them before. They look like jerks." You just rammed into him," I said to Amos. "I know, right?" laughed Amos. "He didn't even see it coming," said Miles. "He was like, 'Are you a freak too?' And you were like, 'Bam!' said Jack. 'Bam!' said Amos, throwing a fake punch in the air. But after I tackled him, I was like, 'Run, Amos, you schmuck. He's 10 times bigger than you.' And I got up and I started running as fast as I could. We all started laughing. I grabbed Augie and I was like, 'Run!' said Henry. 'I didn't even know it was you pulling me,' I answered. 'That was wild,' said Amos, shaking his head. 'Totally wild.' 'Your lip is bleeding, dude.' 'I got a couple of good punches,' answered Amos, wiping his lip. 'I think they were seventh graders. They were huge.' 'Losers,' Henry shouted really loud, but we all shushed him. We listened for a second to make sure no one had heard him. "Where the heck are we?" asked Amos. "I can't even see the screen." "I think we're in the cornfields," answered Henry. "Duh, we're in the cornfields," said Miles, pushing a cornstalk at Henry. "Okay, I know exactly where we are," said Amos. "We have to go back in this direction. That'll take us to the other side of the field." "Yo, dude," said Jack, hand high in the air. "That was really cool of you guys to come back for us. Really cool. Thanks." "No problem," answered Amos, high-fiving Jack. And then Miles and Henry high-fived him too. "Yeah, dudes, thanks," I said, holding my palm up like Jack had, though I wasn't sure if they'd high-five me too. Amos looked at me and nodded. "It was cool how you stood your ground, little dude," he said, high-fiving me. "Yeah, Augie," said Miles, high-fiving me too. "You were like, we're literal than you guys." "I don't know what else to say," I laughed. "Very cool," said Henry, and he high-fived me too. Only I ripped my sweatshirt. I looked down and my sweatshirt was completely torn down the middle. One sleeve was ripped off and the other was so stretched out it was hanging down to your knees. "Hey, your elbow's bleeding," said Jack. "Yeah." I shrugged. It was starting to hurt a lot. "You okay?" Jack said, seeing my face. I nodded. Suddenly I felt like crying, and I was trying really hard not to do that. "Wait, your hearing aids are gone," said Jack. "What?" I yelled, touching my ears. The hearing aid band was definitely gone. That's why I felt like I was underwater. "Oh no," I said. And that's when I couldn't hold it in anymore. Everything that had just happened kind of hit me, and I couldn't help it. I started to cry, like big crying, what Mom would call the waterworks. I was so embarrassed I hid my face in my arm, but I couldn't stop the tears from coming. The guys were really nice to me, though. They patted me on the back. "You're okay, dude. It's okay," they said. "You're one brave little dude. You know that," said Amos, putting his arm around my shoulders. And then I kept on crying. He put his arms around me like my dad would have done and let me cry. The Emperor's Guard. We backtracked through the grass for the good 10 minutes to see if we could find my hearing aids, but it was way too dark to see anything. We literally had to hold on to each other's shirts and walk in a single file so we wouldn't trip over one another. It was like black ink had been poured all around. "This is hopeless," said Henry. "They could be anywhere." "Maybe we can come back with a flashlight," answered Amos. "No, it's okay," I said. "Let's just go back. Thanks, though." We walked back towards the cornfield and then cut through them until the back of the giant screen came into view. Since it was facing away from us, we didn't get any light from the screen at all until we walked around to the edge of the woods again. That's where we finally started seeing a little light. There was no sign of the seventh graders anywhere. "Where do you think they went?" said Jack. "Back to the food truck," said Amos. "They're probably thinking we're going to report them." "Are we?" asked Henry. They looked at me. I shook my head. "Okay," said Amos. "But little dude, don't walk around here alone again, okay? If you need to go somewhere, tell us and we'll go with you." "Okay," I nodded. We got a little closer to the screen. I could hear high on a hill was a lonely Guthard and could smell the cotton candy from one of the concession stands near the food trucks. There were lots of kids milling around in the area, so I pulled what was left of my hoodie over my head and kept my face down, hands in pockets. As we made our way through the crowd, it had been a long time since I'd been out without my hearing aids, and it felt like I was miles away from Earth. It felt like the song Miranda used to sing to me: "Ground control to Major Tom, your circuit's dead, there's something wrong." I did notice as I walked that had stayed right next to me, and Jack was close on the other side of me, and Miles was in front of us, and Henry was in back of us. They had surrounded me, and as we walked through the crowds of kids, like I had my own Emperor's Guard.